There are only 15 minutes of dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, only 6 of which are CGI. In Avengers Endgame, Chris Hemsworth always wears gloves to cover up the seams of his fatsuit. 3 movies are tied for the most Oscar wins at 11. Jesus, that's a lot. Titanic, Lord of the Rings Return of the King, and the 1959 Ben-Hur. Eminem didn't show up to the Oscars when he won Best Original Song for Lose Yourself when it was featured in 8 Mile. He said he didn't show up because he didn't think he was going to win, and he was actually asleep when he won. Tron was one of the first movies to heavily use CGI in its effects, but was disqualified from getting an Oscar nomination for Best Visual Effects because the Academy said using computers for effects was cheating. When filming Star Wars on the border of Tunisia, the Libyan government thought that the Sandcrawler was an actual military vehicle and threatened real military action unless it was moved. So Star Wars almost caused an actual war. To get period clothing when developing Schindler's List, the costume designer put out an ad offering to buy people's clothes. Poland's economy was weak at the time, so people were happy to sell their genuine 1930s and 40s clothes to the costume department. When filming the tunnel sequence in The Dark Knight, they accidentally destroyed the IMAX camera they were shooting with, which was only one of 4 in the world at the time. Sylvester Stallone only had $106 in his bank account when he sold the script for Rocky. They offered him $350,000, but he would only sell it to them on the condition that he would star as Rocky. He was an unknown at the time, so this was kind of a risk, so they offered to only pay him for scale for acting, which is about $35,000, with no writing fee. Silence of the Lambs is the only horror movie to ever win Best Picture at the Oscars. Yes, it is a horror movie, and you can fight me on that. This is Spinal Tap is the only movie on IMDb where the rating goes up to 11. Steven Spielberg only ate uncooked Spaghettios out of a can while filming Raiders of the Lost Ark on location out of fear of getting food poisoning, which is what happened to every other cast and crew member. He also taped his mouth and nose shut to not ingest the water while he was showering. Rita Moreno and Ariana DeBose both won Best Supporting Actress at the Oscars for playing Anita in both West Side Story 1961 and 2021 respectively. This is the first time where 2 different people have won the same Oscar for playing the same character. Will Smith turned down the role of Neo in The Matrix in favor of the lead in Wild Wild West. When making his first film, Fear and Desire, Stanley Kubrick used insecticide to simulate fog in certain scenes. Any young filmmakers out there, please don't do that. Please don't poison your cast and crew. Ed Helms is actually missing the tooth he loses in The Hangover. In fact, it never actually grew in. That's some method acting. Psycho features the first on-screen toilet flushing. Night of the Living Dead has been in the public domain since its very first theatrical run due to a minor copyright issue, which explains like the 7,000 different versions of it on YouTube and every other streaming service. And if you want to download it, be my guest, the copyright police can't do nothing. John Carpenter was pressured by the studios to sue Hideo Kojima because they felt that the character of Snake from the Metal Gear series was a blatant ripoff of Snake from Escape from New York. Carpenter refused, however, because, quote, he's a nice guy. See kids, be a sweetheart and avoid potential legal ramifications. John Heder was paid only $900 for the lead role in Napoleon Dynamite. The sped-up scenes during the Can't Buy Me Love number in A Hard Day's Night were done by accident because the camera batteries were dying and accidentally sped up the film. In The Big Lebowski, to give the impression that his eyes were red from smoking, you know, Jeff Bridges would roll his knuckles into his eyes right before filming. When Toy Story was being developed, it took anywhere from 45 minutes to 30 hours to render each frame. And when they moved on to Toy Story 2, somebody accidentally deleted 90% of the movie during a routine maintenance check on one of the servers. Thankfully, one of the executives had backed up all the files to her personal computer at home when she was on maternity leave. See, that's the kind of dedication you love to see. Twister was the first movie ever released on DVD. When watching Borat, Charlize Theron locked up a herniated disc in her throat from laughing so hard, causing her to be hospitalized for 5 days. Sasha, you're a comedic genius, but your movies might kill someone. Some of the fake snow used in The Shining was reused for certain scenes on Hoth and The Empire Strikes Back. When the diner manager in Pulp Fiction says,
I am not a hero, I'm just a coffee shop,
he is actually credited as Coffee Shop. Robin Williams really wanted to play the role of Hagrid in Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. He was reluctantly turned down by Chris Columbus, however, due to the demand for a British-only cast. Dustin Hoffman put rocks in his shoes to give the distinct walk he has in Midnight Cowboy. Mark Hamill nearly lost his hand on the set of Empire Strikes Back filming the final fight. During one of the takes, the lightsaber went down and hit him on the thumb, which shattered his hand and he had to be taken off set and hospitalized for several days. George C. Scott won an Oscar for the lead role in the film Patton. He returned the Oscar a day later because he disliked the Academy Awards in general, calling them a meat parade. I never noticed before, but when watching the Oscars, I did notice there is quite a bit of meat in them. The Birdman suit Michael Keaton wears in Birdman was modeled after a mannequin of his own body created for Batman. The only comment Robert Duvall has ever made about his performance as Tom in The Godfather is, "I wish they made a better hairpiece for his character." Harmony Korine was only 19 years old when he wrote the script for the film Kids. The Satanic Temple has endorsed the movie The Witch and has hosted a number of screenings of it. So that's why they wanted to put a cattle prod of a pentagram on my neck when I saw it. In Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, hardly any vehicles are shown. This was done intentionally by director Mel Stewart to avoid the film eventually looking dated. The original Aladdin was disqualified from getting a Best Adapted Screenplay nomination at the Oscars because of how much of Robin Williams' dialogue was improvised. When pitching the script for Good Will Hunting, Ben Affleck and Matt Damon inserted a fake page halfway through detailing an intense sex scene between Will and Chucky. They did this because whoever commented on it would have actually read the script. In the end, Miramax were the only ones who commented on it and eventually made the film. And I like to think that scene is what got them interested in making it. In Little Miss Sunshine, despite them playing mother and son respectively, Toni Collette and Paul Dano are only 12 years apart in age. Fast Times at Ridgemont High is the film debut of Nicolas Cage. He had to lie about his age as he was only 17 at the time. In Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the Heart of Gold Bridge had so many light bulbs that it could only be on for 8 minutes at a time to avoid catching on fire. To achieve the look of the bright chrome Kryptonian suits in Superman, they were made of the same material as movie theater screens, which made them very easy to reflect light. These were very difficult to shoot with, however. Election from 1999 is Barack Obama's favorite political film. It took Doug Jones 5 hours to put the Pale Man costume on in Pan's Labyrinth. He could only see through the nose holes in the front. James Cameron was originally going to direct Spider-Man, and organic web shooters were actually his idea. The star in Ramona Flowers' Bag and Scott Pilgrim vs. the World changes color in accordance with her hair. This is an actual storyboard drawn by Ryan Johnson for Knives Out. In the film Primer, all but one of the shots were completed in their first take, as Shane Carruth couldn't afford film for more takes. The only one that was redone, however, was one where somebody spilled a soda. The writing in the nightclub wall in Trainspotting is the exact same as the writing in the milk bar in A Clockwork Orange. Benedict Cumberbatch received help from dancer J-Funk to get the hand gestures right when filming Doctor Strange. When filming The Princess Bride, Rob Reiner had to leave the set because he couldn't control his laughter during Billy Crystal's scene. The opening dance number for Do the Right Thing took 8 hours to film. When directing The Incredibles, Brad Bird had the voice actor for Dash, Spencer Fox, run around the studio a few laps for certain scenes to make him sound like he was out of breath. R2-D2 can briefly be seen in one shot in the 2009 Star Trek film. One of the elderly male dancers in Enchanted was also a chimney sweep in Mary Poppins. Certain scenes of the 1933 King Kong were removed by censors in order to be destroyed. It turns out the editor took them home with him and they were reinserted at a later time. Michael Bay walked out of the premiere of the 2009 Friday the 13th film he produced. His reason was he felt that the sexual content on it was too excessive. The meat used in the dinner scene of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre went bad when filming. The actors' heads start to move further and further away as the overhead lights made the smell much stronger. John Wick director Chad Stahelski was Keanu Reeves' stunt double in The Matrix. Extras were frequently recostumed and reused during the boxing scenes in the film Snatch, as the budget couldn't afford to hire any more. Zack Snyder's son plays young Leonidas in the training scenes in 300. Robert Redford never saw The Sting until June 2004. 31 years after its premiere. Rob Bottin worked so hard on the effects for the film The Thing that he had to be hospitalized with exhaustion. If you look closely, you can see some of his sweat and blood in certain scenes. Mel Gibson only has 16 lines of dialogue in The Road Warrior. The sound effect of the heat rays in the original War of the Worlds were achieved by playing 3 electric guitars and then reversing the audio. In Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, Flint Lockwood's laboratory was modeled after the exteriors of Nikola Tesla's. In the Lego Movie, the animation was purposely choppy to give the look and feel of stop motion. Certain characters have thumbprints on their torsos for a similar reason. The opening shot of Boogie Nights purposely starts with the title of the film on a marquee. This is so the title couldn't be changed at a later time, which is what happened to Paul Thomas Anderson's previous film Heart Eight. Stephen King was paid only $2,500 for the film rights to Carrie. He doesn't regret this, however, because he says he feels lucky this happened to his first book and vastly helped his career. Disney wanted to heavily downplay Jack Sparrow's role in the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, as they felt the lead being a drunk didn't mend well with their family-friendly brand. Johnny Depp, however, received an Oscar nomination for Best Leading Actor for this film. Eddie Furlong had zero acting experience when he got the role of John Connor in Terminator 2. James Cameron wanted someone who felt like a real kid and didn't have the refined mannerisms of an actor. He actually found Furlong in a park, a time where you could go up to a little kid in a park and say you want them to be in your movie, and it seemed completely normal. After Top Gun was such a success, the studio immediately greenlit the sequel. To cut costs, they wanted to use jet footage from the first movie that was unused. The filmmakers told them this was impossible, however, as every frame was used in the first movie. Upon looking through the archives, they found this to be true and eventually shelved the project. John Rhys Davies was allergic to the prosthetic mask he had to wear for the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and he frequently received rashes because of it. Once filming wrapped, he burnt the mask. The snowplow that drives by the motel at the end of Fargo was not scripted. The roads were blocked off with signs warning people not to go through because of filming. One government employee ignored this and drove through anyway. Hey, man's gotta work, I respect the dedication. Nakatomi Plaza was actually the 20th Century Fox headquarters. The company charged itself rent to use it for filming. In Lost in Translation, Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson don't exchange dialogue until over 30 minutes in. Dr. Manhattan is the only character in Watchmen that doesn't swear. In Casino Royale, Daniel Craig lost his 2 front teeth when filming a fight scene in Prague. His dentist had to be flown in from London to replace them. Ewan McGregor was originally offered the role of Patrick Bateman in American Psycho. Christian Bale, however, urged him to drop out as he wanted to play the role. Ray Liotta turned down the role of Harvey Dent in Batman in favor of playing Henry Hill in Goodfellas. Job applications for FedEx increased 30% after the release of Castaway. I'm wondering if they ever actually saw the film. Natural Born Killers contains 18 different film formats. The opening shot of Gravity lasts for 12 minutes. The suit for the original Godzilla film was partly made of cement, as material such as rubber was difficult to find in post-World War II Japan. The actor inside would routinely pass out during filming. Dunkirk was filmed on the actual beach where the evacuation took place. Christopher Nolan found the button of an actual English soldier while location scouting. Paul Bettany recorded all of his lines for Jarvis and Iron Man in only 2 hours. To add tension between Mel Gibson and Gary Busey when filming Lethal Weapon, director Richard Donner said it was the other who kept eating the last waffle. Just think, the fights in that movie were partly fueled by blind rage over waffles. When directing Sex, Lies, and Videotapes, one of the producers faxed a memo to Steven Soderbergh that said, "You couldn't direct Traffic." He later went on to receive Best Director at the Oscars for directing the movie Traffic. The front part of the Xenomorph's face in Alien was partly made out of a real human skull. When making Return of the Living Dead, producers wanted to get approval from Lysol to use their products in a scene where they would cover up the stench of zombies. Lysol wholeheartedly accepted, as they appreciated the idea of Lysol would kill any conceivable odor. Anthony Hopkins was the only consideration for the lead and the father. Florian Zeller, who based the film on his own play, said that if Hopkins turned it down, he probably wouldn't have made the film in English. The Nice Guys was originally pitched as a TV series, but was then reworked into a movie as the story wasn't going anywhere. Once Upon a Time in America was heavily edited during its original theatrical run into 2 hours. One critic called it the worst movie of the 1980s. When it received its later cut of 4 hours, that same critic called it the best movie of the 1980s. Richard Nixon was paid $25,000 to help promote the home video release of RoboCop. He gave the money to the American Boys Club. The script for The Cabin in the Woods was written almost entirely in one weekend. Joss Whedon and Drew Goddard locked themselves in a hotel room to complete the script. Only 42% of the dialogue in Inglourious Basterds was in English. The rest was a mix of German, French, and a little Italian. Jeff Anderson took issue with all the porn titles he had to read in one scene of Clerks. When talking to Kevin Smith, he agreed to cut down on the number of them. He ended up adding a few more. Geely, at the time of its release, had the biggest box office drop in 1 week, 81.9%. And finally, in 101 Dalmatians, when all the puppies are watching TV, one of the spots on Lucky's back is in the shape of a horseshoe, which is a sign for good luck. Should I have made this list 101 then save that for the end? And that's 100 movie facts. Some you may not have heard of before. Some may have made you laugh, some may have blown your mind, and some may have made you go, but hopefully at least you learned one new thing when watching this. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.